His laugh. That sharp, mocking laugh I'd spent 6 months trying to forget. It cut through the crowded restaurant like a blade, and my feet stopped moving before my brain caught up. Don't look, don't you dare look. But I did. There he was, Minyu, perfect suit, perfect hair, perfect arm wrapped around a woman half my age with legs that went on forever. And he was staring right at me. Jenna, his grin spread slow and poisonous. Wow, didn't expect to see you here. The restaurant fell quiet. 20 tables, 40 pairs of eyes, all watching. This was a mistake. I'd picked this place because it was expensive, exclusive, the kind of place I'd never been able to afford when I was with him. The kind of place, he said, I didn't belong. Still cleaning offices, he tilted his champagne glass toward me. Or did you finally get that big break you always talked about? Someone snickered. My throat closed. Say something, anything, don't just stand there like. A hand pressed against the small of my back. Warm, firm, possessive. And a voice, low, cold, dangerous, spoke directly beside my ear. Is there a problem? I didn't have to turn around to know who it was. I felt him. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the waiters froze. Minyu's grin faltered. Then it collapsed entirely. Because the man standing behind me wasn't just anyone. He was Kang Siwoo. And everyone in Seoul knew that name. 3 weeks earlier. The night I met him, I was on my knees. Not by choice. The bucket had tipped. Soapy water flooded across the marble floor of the 47th floor executive suite I was supposed to be cleaning, and I scrambled to contain the mess before anyone saw. Stupid, stupid, stupid. This was my 3rd week at Apex Holdings. 3rd week of overnight shifts, empty hallways, and the constant fear of making a mistake that would cost me the only job keeping a roof over my head. Minyu had made sure no one else would hire me. A reference from my ex. Unreliable, emotional, difficult to work with. The lies slid off his tongue so easily. So here I was, invisible, disposable, mopping floors at 2 a.m. You missed a spot. I flinched so hard I knocked the bucket again. The voice came from the shadows near the floor-to-ceiling windows, a figure I hadn't noticed, a presence I should have felt. He stepped forward, and the city lights caught his face. Sharp jaw, dark eyes, the kind of beauty that made you forget to breathe, and then made you remember, violently, that beautiful things could be deadly. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my annual salary. No tie. Collar open just enough to reveal the edge of ink crawling up his neck. Tattoos. I knew what that meant in this world. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize anyone was still here. I'll come back. Stay. One word, not loud, not angry. Just absolute. My legs refused to move. He walked toward me, each step measured, deliberate, like a predator who knew his prey had nowhere to run. What's your name? Jenna Park. I'm with the cleaning service. Please, I didn't mean to. You're shaking. I couldn't stop. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that I could smell him, something dark and warm, like whiskey and smoke and danger. Do I frighten you, Jenna Park? Yes. No, sir. His lips curved, not a smile, something colder. Liar. He reached past me, and I stopped breathing entirely. His hand closed around a folder on the desk behind me, the folder I'd knocked over when I'd first entered, the one I'd hastily restacked without looking. He flipped it open, studied something inside, then those dark eyes lifted back to mine. You saw this. It wasn't a question. I didn't look, I swear. I just picked up the papers. These papers contain names, locations, transactions that certain people would kill to keep hidden. My blood turned to ice. I didn't read anything. Please. I'll forget I was ever here. I'll quit. You'll do exactly what I tell you to do. He closed the folder. Stepped closer. I pressed back against the desk, but there was nowhere to go. "There's a man," he said quietly, "who's been causing me problems, business complications. He recently tried to destroy someone I consider an asset. An asset, not a friend, not family, an asset. This man attends a charity gala next Saturday. Black tie, 500 guests, heavy security. I don't understand. I need someone invisible." His gaze dragged down my uniform, my messy ponytail, my bare face. "Someone no one would look twice at. Someone who can get close to him without raising suspicion. You want me to spy on someone. I want you to walk into a room with me," his voice dropped even lower, "and make him regret every choice he's ever made." My heart hammered. "Why me?" "Because I did my research, Jenna Park." He leaned in, and his breath ghosted across my cheek. "I know exactly who destroyed your reputation, who spread lies about you, who made sure you'd spend the rest of your life on your knees." My ex. He was talking about Minyu. "One night," Siwoo murmured. "You give me one night, and I'll give you something far more valuable than money." "What?" His dark eyes burned into mine. "Revenge." The next 3 weeks were a blur of contradictions. He sent a stylist to my apartment, a trainer, a woman who spent 6 hours teaching me how to walk in heels that cost more than my car. I never saw him. Not once. Just his instructions, delivered by stone-faced men in black suits who looked at me like I was a problem they hadn't yet decided how to solve. "Wear this. Learn this. Be ready." The dress arrived the night before the gala. Red silk, backless, the kind of dress that made you feel naked even when you were fully covered. I stared at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. "This isn't you. This is what he wants you to be." But when Siwoo's car arrived at 7 p.m. the next evening, a black Mercedes with tinted windows and a driver who didn't speak, I got in anyway. Because the alternative was going back to my knees. And I was done being invisible. He was waiting inside the car. Same black suit, same dark eyes, same energy that made the air feel thin and dangerous. But something shifted when he saw me. His gaze moved slowly, deliberately, from my heels to my legs to the curve of my waist to my face. He didn't speak. For a long moment, neither did I. "Do I look acceptable?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "You look," he said quietly, "like a woman who's about to walk into a room and burn it to the ground." I couldn't tell if that was a compliment. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do." "Nothing," he turned toward the window. "Just stay beside me." That's it. That's everything. The car pulled away from the curb, and I watched the city lights blur past. "Who are you, Kang Siwoo?" I'd looked him up. Of course I had. CEO of Apex Holdings. Tech, real estate, investments. A self-made empire built from nothing. But the whispers said something different. They said Apex was a front, that his real business happened in shadows, in warehouses, in rooms no one ever walked out of. They said he was untouchable because everyone who tried to touch him disappeared. And now you're in a car with him. Going to a party. Wearing a dress he bought. I should have been terrified. I was. But beneath the fear, something else stirred. Something I didn't want to name. The gala was everything I'd expected, and nothing I'd prepared for. Crystal chandeliers, live orchestra, women dripping in diamonds and men dripping in power. And Siwoo. Siwoo, whose hand settled on my lower back the moment we entered, whose presence parted crowds like water, whose name was whispered in every corner of that gilded room. No one looked at me like I was invisible anymore. They looked at me like I was a threat. Because I'm with him. Because standing next to him makes me untouchable. Breathe. His voice was low, meant only for me. I'm breathing. You're holding it. He was right. I released a shaky exhale. Why are you doing this? I asked quietly. Really? I told you. Not the revenge, not mean you. I glanced up at him. Why me? You could have anyone, people who know how to do this. People who wouldn't trip over their own feet or forget which fork to use. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Because you have something they don't. What? He didn't answer immediately. His thumb traced a small circle against my spine, and I forgot how to think. Fire, he finally said. Buried, controlled, but there. You don't know anything about me. I know you worked 3 jobs to put yourself through school. I know you were engaged to a man who convinced you that you weren't enough, and you believed him long enough to lose everything. I know that last month, you sat in your car for 45 minutes after your shift, crying, before you drove home to an empty apartment. My blood ran cold. You've been watching me. I watch everyone. That's not. There he is. Siwoo's voice changed, hardened, his hand pressed firmer against my back. I followed his gaze across the room, and my heart stopped. Minyu, standing near the bar with a glass of champagne and a smile that made me want to scream. He hadn't seen me yet, but he will. Are you ready? Siwoo's question wasn't really a question. No. Good, his lips brushed my ear. Neither. The walk across that ballroom felt like crossing a battlefield. Each step, each heartbeat, each breath. Siwoo's hand never left my back. And then Minyu turned. His smile froze. His champagne glass stopped halfway to his lips. His perfect composure cracked just for a second, but I saw it. That flicker of shock, of disbelief, of fear. Jenna, his voice came out strangled. What how? Mr. Minyu Park. Siwoo's greeting was ice wrapped in velvet. I don't believe we've been formally introduced. Minyu's face went white. He knew. Everyone in that room knew. Mr. Kang. Minyu set down his glass with trembling hands. I didn't realize you'd be here tonight, or that you knew Jenna. There's quite a lot you don't realize. Siwoo's thumb pressed into my spine. Jenna tells me you had a business partnership, one that ended poorly. That's not, we were engaged. It was personal, not. Was it personal when you called every company in your network and told them she was incompetent, unstable, a liability? The color drained from Minyu's face completely. That's a misunderstanding. Was it a misunderstanding when you froze her bank account, changed the locks on the apartment she paid for, left her with nothing while you moved your mistress into the home you'd built together? I couldn't breathe. I hadn't told Siwoo any of that. He knew everything. Minyu's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Around us, people were staring. Whispers spread like wildfire. I don't know what she told you, Minyu stammered, but Jenna has a tendency to exaggerate. I don't need her to tell me anything. Siwoo's voice dropped to something lethal. I have the receipts, the recordings, the sworn statements from 3 of your former employees who are very eager to testify about your creative accounting practices. Minyu swayed. You can't. I can. Siwoo stepped forward and Minyu stumbled backward. The question is whether I will. Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. Siwoo let it stretch. Let Minyu sweat. Let every person in that room watch the most arrogant man they knew crumble. Then he leaned in, close enough that only Minyu and I could hear. You have 48 hours to restore everything you took from her. The references, the reputation, the money. If she is inconvenienced in any way, if she stubs her toe on a sidewalk crack, I will dismantle your life so thoroughly that your own mother won't remember your name. Am I clear? Minyu nodded frantically. Enjoy your evening, Mr. Park. Siwoo's hand found mine. And he walked me out of that ballroom like a king, departing with his queen. We didn't speak until we were in the car. The door closed. The city blurred past. And the adrenaline that had been keeping me upright crashed. I started shaking. Not crying, not laughing, just shaking. Breathe. Siwoo's voice again, steady, commanding. How did you know all that? My words came out broken. About Minyu, about the account, the apartment, everything. I told you, I watch. Why? I turned to face him. Why do you care? What do I have that could possibly matter to someone like you? He didn't answer. Siwoo. His name felt dangerous in my mouth. You wanted to know why I chose you, he said quietly. Yes. Because I know what it's like. I stared at him. What's like? He turned toward the window. His reflection stared back at me, dark, distant, haunted. To be erased, to be made nothing, to have someone take everything you are and convince the world you never existed at all. His voice was different now, stripped of its usual control, raw in a way that made my chest ache. Who did that to you? My father. The word fell like a stone. The great Kim Yi-hyun, founder of what would become Apex Holdings, visionary, philanthropist, and the man who killed my mother and spent the next 20 years pretending I was never born. I couldn't speak. I was 5 when she died, 15 when I found out the truth, 20 when I came for him. His jaw tightened. 30 when I buried him. Buried. The word sat between us, heavy with meaning. Is that what you are? My voice was barely a whisper. A killer. He turned to face me. In the darkness of that car, his eyes looked almost black. Would it matter if I said yes? Yes. No. I don't know. I'm not a good man, Jenna. He reached out and touched my cheek. His fingers were gentle, too gentle for someone who just admitted to. Don't think about it. I've done things you can't imagine, things that keep me awake at night. Things I would do again, without hesitation, if anyone threatened what I've built. Then why tell me? Because I want you to know what you're walking into. His thumb traced the line of my jaw. Before it's too late to walk away. My heart hammered. And if I don't want to walk away? His hand stilled. For a long moment, he just looked at me, really looked, like he was searching for something he'd given up hopping to find. Then you're more foolish than I thought. Or more brave. No, his voice cracked, almost imperceptibly, almost humanly. Bravery requires understanding the risk. You don't understand what I am. Then show me. His breath caught. Jenna, you showed me who I could be tonight, who I was before Minyu broke me down. You gave me that back in a single evening. I covered his hand with mine. So show me who you are, the real version, not the monster everyone whispers about, not the CEO in the perfect suit, just you. His walls trembled. I could feel it. The cracks forming in something he'd built over 30 years of survival. I don't know how to be anything else, he whispered. Then let me teach you. The car stopped. I looked out the window. We weren't at my apartment. We were at a park, empty, silent, moonlight spilling over a wooden bench near a frozen pond. Siwoo got out without a word. After a moment, I followed. The cold bit through my thin dress immediately, but I barely noticed, because Siwoo was walking toward that bench like it held the weight of his entire history. He sat down, looked out at the ice, and waited. I sat beside him, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. This is where I brought her, he said quietly. After. Your mother. What was left of her? His voice was hollow. There was a funeral, of course. My father made sure it was beautiful, elaborate, a performance for the cameras, but she's not in that grave. She's here, in the water, where she asked to be. I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing. I just reached over and took his hand. His fingers were cold, stiff, but after a moment they curled around mine. I've never brought anyone here before. Why me? He turned to look at me. And for the first time since I'd met him, his mask was completely gone. Because when I look at you, he said, I remember what it felt like before I became this. Before I learned that power was the only thing that kept you safe. Before I forgot that some things are worth more than control. Like what? Like warmth. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. Connection, the feeling of being known by someone who doesn't want anything from you except your presence. Is that what you think I want? I don't know what you want. That's what terrifies me. I leaned into him. Just slightly. Just enough to close the gap. I want to know the man who sits by a frozen pond at midnight, talking to his mother. I want to know the boy who survived something unimaginable and built an empire from the ashes. I want to know every dark corner you've been hiding, and I want to show you that shadows aren't the only place you belong. His breath shuddered. You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me I'm wrong. Tell me to leave. Send me back to my empty apartment and forget I exist. He was silent. His hand tightened around mine. I can't. Why? He turned his body toward me. His free hand came up to cup my face. Because I've spent 30 years building walls that nothing could breach, and you walked through them in 3 weeks, without trying, without even realizing what you were doing. Is that a bad thing? It's the most dangerous thing that's ever happened to me. Then we're even. I leaned into his touch. Because you're the most dangerous thing that's ever happened to me, and I don't want to run. His forehead dropped against mine. For a long moment, we stayed like that, breathing the same frozen air, existing in the same suspended moment. Then he kissed me. Not rough, not demanding, not the way I'd expected a man like him to kiss. Slow, reverent, like he was afraid I would shatter. Like I was something precious. Like I was something worth protecting. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were wet. I will destroy anyone who tries to hurt you, he said quietly. I will burn down everything I've built before I let them touch you, and that should terrify you. It doesn't. Why? Because I know you would burn it all down for her, too. I glanced toward the frozen pond. For your mother, for anyone you loved. That's not a monster, Siwoo. That's a man who loves too deeply in a world that taught him love was dangerous. His composure cracked. A single tear slid down his cheek. I reached up and wiped it away. Let me stay, I whispered. Not because you need protection, not because of Minyu, not because you saved me. Let me stay because I want to, because you deserve someone who sees all of you and chooses to stay anyway. He closed his eyes, drew a ragged breath, and nodded. 3 weeks later. His laugh. That sharp, mocking laugh I'd spent 6 months trying to forget. It cut through the crowded restaurant like a blade. But this time, when I turned, when I saw Minyu sitting across the room with his champagne and his perfect hair and his arm around another woman, I smiled, because his gaze was already locked on the door, already frozen in terror, already watching the man who walked in beside me. Kang Siwoo, the monster everyone whispered about, the man who burned down walls. My monster. He leaned in, lips brushing my ear. Is there a problem? I laced my fingers through his, felt the warmth of his palm against mine. Not anymore. His hand pressed against the small of my back. Warm, firm, possessive. And we walked into that restaurant together. 2 people who should never have found each other. 2 souls forged in darkness who'd learned to make their own light. And as Minyu's face crumbled, as his champagne glass trembled in his hand, I understood something I hadn't before. Revenge wasn't about destroying your enemies. It was about building a life so complete, so whole, so yours that their destruction couldn't touch you. It was about finding someone who saw your scars and traced them like road maps. It was about standing in a room full of people who once looked through you and realizing you'd stopped needing their approval the moment someone else saw you clearly. Siwoo guided me to our table, pulled out my chair, sat across from me with those dark, unreadable eyes that weren't so unreadable anymore. You're smiling, he observed. Am I not allowed? You're allowed everything. He reached across the table, took my hand. You're allowed whatever you want for the rest of your life. That's a dangerous promise. I'm a dangerous man. I smiled wider. I know. And across the room, Minyu set down his champagne, excused himself from his date, and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. He would never bother me again. He would never bother anyone again. Because some monsters were made to terrify, and some monsters were made to protect. And I had found mine.